Hey traders, this is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Monday, February 25th. So we'll start with the charts of the S&P and some of the other averages, and then we'll just talk about today's price action, a little bit about today's option activity, and we'll kind of put it all together. So kind of felt like a little bit of a reversal day. So I don't know, maybe I'm doing this backwards, but it did feel like a bit of a reversal day. My thought was to try to take as many profits around the open. Some trades that I've been adding to and just had on for the last couple weeks. This seemed like a great place to go ahead and take profit. So you have to remember always with trading, sometimes there's a buy the rumor, sell the news type event, and I think that's kind of what we got a little bit today. There was some profit taking, right? I mean, all these people who have gotten long over the last couple weeks, right? You got a trade deal, and market rallied pretty hard overnight, and China rallied very hard. In the overnight session, you want to take some profits and then kind of, see if this market digests a little bit. That's my train of thought. That's what I did today. And especially if you're holding shorter term option plays, I put this out on Twitter earlier, just a little bit of my strategy, right? I'm holding a whole bunch of different things, right? I'm holding, we put on a small Apple trade on Friday. Funny because I was thinking that it would be Mr. Buffett that might give it a catalyst, and it was more of, the whole market being up. But doesn't really matter. That trade worked out really well, and so I automatically, that's the first thing, that because those short-term options are the most sensitive ones, I'll always go to that. Some of either my longer-term option positions or stock positions on, I already have targets out at certain levels. The very short-term options, when we gap up, they're going to be most sensitive. So I always make sure that in the first hour of me dealing with a kind of gap open market, that's what I want to take off first, and then I can kind of pick things apart a little bit and not be in such a rush, especially with those cash positions. So looking at the S&P, I was actually just looking at this after hours, and yeah, I mean 2816 is the top of value. If you're not familiar with value areas and how they work, just a quick 2 seconds. I'm on the weekly chart, so this is all the price action in this shaded area, this volume profile from 2018. And what this, I don't want to call it an indicator, but I guess study that we've made draws a standard deviation of price action around this. So volume at price, right? It's a little bit different than volume over time on the bottom, but it really gives some great support and resistance levels. So basically we hit that. Now the week is not over, but that's the resistance that I have on my charts. And I know everybody's looking at different levels and saying if you cross this line, then you cross this line, and then it's going to be this one. But excuse me, bottom line is, we are a bit over, we were overbought last week. So, this to me looks a little bit toppy. We have not lost any of the short-term moving averages, which I've talked about before. So if you want to wait for a little bit of confirmation, but to me it looks toppy. If we go over to SPY, and let's just see what the RSI is on SPY, which is a little bit different. It's a 70 RSI. We talked about that last week. So if we break below the yellow line, which is the 5-period moving average, and I've talked about this just over and over the last couple months, then maybe we kind of sit back and recheck to the 200-day moving average or the 20-day moving average. And I think that would also be a nice place to get back involved and put on some more risk. But I think for now, the majority of what I did today was take profits off. Qs are going to be a little bit different. Notice they never really got overbought. They're still doing fine. They finished up 36 basis points. There's really no sell signal here. And there's no, just to be clear, there's no real sell signal. Just because we're hitting resistance doesn't necessarily mean a sell signal, but I'm honoring that. 176.16 is what it is there. And IWM I thought was a little bit telling today. This finished flat on the day, and because this has been the market leader since the beginning of the year, right? Small caps have been on fire. They've been leading us higher. And again, they finished flat. They were up about, I think, about a 0.5% somewhere in there, but they have not broken the 5-period moving average. Again, if it does that, notice with this, we did this here, and we had that nice supportive top of value. Now we don't have that yet, so we could possibly, if we do break this, we could do a little bit of retracing. Is that the end of the world? No, but you want to manage it. Maybe you have on a little bit of puts, or maybe you sell a little bit of out of the money index call spreads. By the way, so this video is for information purposes only. I'm not giving out any recommendations, but just walking through some options that are in my mind, right? And of course, cash is a position. So after a nice run, I think you kind of personally put some money in your pocket, uh, and and it's another thing too. Just switching over to just selling things, and if your trading account has gone up decently, move some of that money over to another account. This way, it's not in your face and tempting you at all times. But yeah, I mean, I'm just finding today is probably one of the first days in a while that I didn't find that many setups, and I sent it out to members earlier today. I said, listen, I'm just not going to force trades. There's some things like, the option activity that we're seeing, uh, like we saw snap calls. I don't know. Do I really want to get long Snapchat? You know, if it is, it would be pretty small. Like QD is another name that we saw a lot of call activity. This is interesting, and I talked about this name on Friday, but this name's up 9.8%. So what do you do with all these? I got a few questions about that. What do you do with all these China names, right? So big difference, by the way, between FXI. I might as well go through some of these charts too. FXY, which is always going to look gappy because the price action is overnight. It's not during U.S. hours, so it will always look gappy. But FXI is up 2%. This is great if you're in it. Would I chase up here? No, not personally. I wouldn't. But again, difference between the FXI ETF, which I know a lot of people refer to, but this covers a different set of stocks than ASHR. It's a completely different index, right? By the way, we took out a VPOC up here too, which is in my opinion a place to take profits, not to chase. So if you're late to it, my opinion, you kind of missed it, and you just have to wait. I mean, look at the volume today too. So could it continue to move up now that there's some momentum? It could. Do I want to chase here? No. I would rather let us see us back and fill. A couple of people asked me on Twitter for some names that I like. This BZUN, this name's going to report in earnings. But listen, these are targets that I've been waiting for. I mean, I was in JD in and out a few times, just waiting and being patient to get to this level. And you could see I've been putting this level out on Twitter for weeks in JD.com. So it got to 27. That's my target. Maybe it settles in here. It does report this week. BABA, same thing. We saw that monster call buyer on. We saw the monster call buyer on Friday that I went over, and I'm surprised. This was up 3.6%. And next stop would be 192 for Alibaba. So I'm still long. So I took off my JD position. I'm still long EEM. I did take a target today, but nice move, and I detailed this in the trading room on Friday. So this has been a great trade so far of emerging markets, and there's about 50% China in this ETF. It's emerging markets, so it's a little bit of everything. A lot of Latin America in there too. So that's the international ETFs. Again, those were really hot, and the ASHR really is not going to give back too much profits, because just like the FXI, the underlying market trades overnight, right? So that could change based on what China does overnight. But they closed right on the high, so they're while our markets are open, theirs are closed. So what else? So just a few other names. I've been a big advocate of saying that the Fang names just do not have the momentum right now. So we'll go back to the S&P on here, right? The S&P is above the 200-day moving average, right? This should be an easy argument, regarding the Fang names. And listen, I'm not dogging them. They've been great in the past years, but this Netflix just cannot get going. And now it was up a quarter of a percent today, but it seems like every day, and I think we talked about this on Friday too. It opens up on the highs and then sells off. So you know, I sent out a stat of people got mad at me this weekend. I sent out a stat. There was a great stat that was put together, I think by Bespoke Management, talking about like going back 15 years and saying that the majority of the move, like the return in the S&P, right, SPY or SPX, has been in the overnight market. So really going from overnight and day trading. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. I'm making a step ahead. But if you would have bought SPY on the open and sold it on the close, I think the stat said something like you would have returned like over the last 20 years like 19%, negative 19%, versus like a 300. I'm butchering these numbers, but like a 357 percent gain. So I think that's really interesting, and I said this, and this is where people got mad at me, which I think is kind of funny. I'm just looking to see if I have the stat, but I said, well, that's kind of an eye opener for day traders, and a lot of people came back to me and they said, oh well, I don't know, that's not really a strategy of day trading to go ahead. Let's see if, oh, sorry, I'm just stalling here. Yeah, here it is. Bespoke Management from 1993. Buying SPY at the open and selling at the close would give you a minus 14. I was close. Minus 14% return. Buying SPY at the close and selling it the next day, plus 634%. So what I said was this should be a little bit of an eye opener for day traders. And again, people came at me and they said, well, that's not, I'm a day trader and I would never buy in the open, you know. Now that's a fair point, right? I mean, if you're a day trader, you have all different types of entries and signals and so forth. But doesn't that tell you that it's much harder, if the right, that's kind of like a beta return. If you're buying SPY on the open and selling it on the close, it has not been a good trade. And it's pretty darn hard to trade to make money when you're up against something that on average has gone down from the open, or has just been tricky, and the majority of the gains have been made overnight. So again, you look at Netflix, for example, and what Netflix has been doing the last week. And again, this is such a small sample size and one name, but it's opened, right? Keep going back here on the open, of the high on the open, and it sells off through the day. Here was a little bit different. It rallied. I've also been talking about how these FANG stocks only rally like one day of the week right now. So open to the close, here, opened on the high, finished a little bit off the close, but down. Here, flat from where it opened. Here it rallied, right? Opened here, and again, gave back most of those gains. But I just see this, it just seems to be a trend that's going on. So opened on the highs, closed on the lows. But if you would have at least bought it on Friday's close, you could have sold it here. It's just a different way of thinking about things. And I didn't mean to challenge anybody, but just, hey, that's, to me, when I get data like that, it makes me think about my strategy, and it makes me think if I'm doing more day trading or swing trading, right? We could do all these different things. We have the ability to do all this type of, type of strategies that can generate more alpha for us. And we don't have to continue to do the same grind and do the same thing. If there's return, in certain areas, we can adjust our strategy. That's the beauty of what you could do as a trader. Just to kind of go through the rest of this group, Facebook I think was the star performer. And you could see that this found support at the 20-day moving average. So not bad there. Will it get over the 200-day moving average? I don't know. Facebook's not really a name that I want to own. Trading, I guess, is fine. But Google just didn't do anything today, and Amazon. And so going back to like the strength in the market, because I was having a conversation with someone on Twitter about this. Amazon doesn't this tell you something? Like if these are your stocks and you're not looking at any other stocks, because and I get it, the FANG stocks, there's been a lot of momentum in these from years past, but Amazon is not acting like it used to. Now it may wake up, but it's below. Doesn't it? The fact that it's below the 200-day moving average tell you something? It tells me something. Same thing with Google. It's not over the 200-day moving average. There's something, it's lost momentum for now. So again, maybe you keep an eye on it, but do I want to like be commenting every day on what these stocks are doing and forcing the issue just because you may know them well? No. So I think Netflix is the best performer. So going back to Netflix, it seems to be the best out of the group, but it's doesn't have any momentum to it. So I don't know why people are so hung up on these names if they don't have momentum to them. So going back to what we've been following, right? And again, it's not about just jumping from one group of stocks to the other. It's about just going where the momentum is, right? What looks better, the team chart? Don't these look like there's some that they have the leadership right now, right? So I talked about IGV today. I sent that out on Twitter that it made an all-time high today. Doesn't this look different to you than Amazon? Amazon has not been able to rally at all. Microsoft has been very good. That also hasn't gotten back to its 52-week high, but has been very strong the last week. What else was I? Oh, Cisco, which saw a call spread go up today. I know that was, but I mean, so if you go one by one through these names, right? And I know if you're a general viewer of my video, you know that we've been talking about these names, and it doesn't mean that you have to be jump from one group of stocks to the other, but hey, if they're going to have outsized returns, why would you not, trade them or get to know the group? I don't know. It's mind-boggling to me that, but hey, that's what some retail traders like to do. Is just they get used to a couple stocks and they can't get away from them, right? I mean, a couple years ago, you could gotten stuck on IBM and GE, and now granted GE's acting differently the last couple days, not last couple days, but last couple months. But anyway, so I hope that what I'm doing on a daily basis adds value, and not getting bogged down in stocks that are not moving. Today's today's option activity. What did we see today? So it was kind of a hodgepodge of things. There was a lot. I saw Nvidia calls go up a couple times, but every time one of those orders went up, it was against open interest. So it wasn't necessarily a clean order. This also just lacks momentum right now. AMD got off to, again, another name that got off to a good start. Just ended up kind of falling, even though I see this VPOC up here at 27. So I mentioned I would talk about. While I'm in the semi space, AMBA, which I think reports earnings soon. There's a little bit of call activity in this name. There is a virgin point of control up here at 43.5. So yeah, I think it's this week. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting reports. Speaking of the enterprise application software names, Workday, right? So again, Workday. Doesn't this look a lot different than the Amazon and Google chart? 52-week high today for workday, and then Vive is going to report tomorrow, and I think Splunk also reports as well. Right, also 52-week high. So this doesn't happen by accident. Yeah, so some interesting reports. I did not play Etsy. That was the one name that I was looking at. I didn't like the candle today. It kind of it was a name that I thought I might play today for earnings, but I just did not like the candle that I had today. But look at this thing, up to 65.30. Shaq also reported, and they're down. I don't really understand that. I actually bought a little bit of shares after the close, and I'm down on it. But they beat on their same store sales numbers or their monthly sales numbers, and they also beat EPS side as well. So I don't really know why the stock is down on that, but I'll have to go over their conference call. I think that was basically it. Just a lot of things like that. I think QD I mentioned already. But I would say a tough day to kind of jump into some names. DHI, there's a lot of calls that went up in DHI. Keep in mind, tomorrow you have housing numbers. You have new home sales, and you have and building permits. So home sales and building permits. PBI, which we saw a little bit of calls on Friday. Salesforce two-way flow. That's going to be reporting earnings. We did see some SPY put activity today, I think, which is also pretty good. SE saw a block at 10,000 calls, but they report earnings after the close tomorrow. I think I think after the close tomorrow. So, I'll give you just because I'm always fully transparent on what I do, but you could see the first hour of the day. I got out of my Apple position. I was in JP Morgan. I'm completely out of JP Morgan. I know it's their investor day tomorrow, but I'm happy to get out of some money in a bank. They could go higher. For me, I'm usually just in these banks for trades. Team had a nice target after putting this trade on Friday. Only trade that I got into a little bit, which I've been kind of playing around with a bit in and out of, it was EA, and I started a position in EW. So two stocks that start with E, and I did not add to that at the end of the day. I didn't like how the market closed for me to kind of put a substantial position on. So that's it for today's video. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.